It's the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos is brought to you by those who drink it. As we move a little farther into the month of August, and we start to integrate the NFL preseason games in, we'll get to that in a second. First, let's start with the Mets. And key development in them getting out of Colorado in the right way, heading to Seattle for a big weekend, and they're all big now as we go down the stretch. The Mets now having just moved ahead, slightly moved ahead of the Braves, who may be the team that they're going to push out of the wild card because of the way San Diego is playing, and San Diego is taking a run now at the Dodgers. They are clearly taking a run at the Dodgers. That's how well they are playing. They're the hottest team in the league, and they are playing very well. They fortified themselves at the trade deadline. Arizona's playing well. They have a big series coming up. Now, Mets will see both of them when they swing back west. We talked about this. But the biggest development for the Mets, hopefully for them, is getting Alonso hot. He leaves Colorado with a big game, hits a couple of home runs, maybe settles down, maybe finally has that month where he carries this team, where he hits in the clutch, where he hits with men in scoring position, which he hasn't done this year. Yeah, he's got 25 homers, and if he has a good month, he can hit 40 homers. But the point is, he has to get big hits. He has to be the guy who could carry the team. He hasn't carried the team this year. He hasn't been the important bat in that lineup that he has been in the past, and they need that. The other thing that's quietly gone on for the Mets is the pitching of Manaea. Manaea has stepped forward tremendously. Last 7 starts, his ERA is just over 2. His last 2 starts, he's put up 7-inning shutout performances. He has become a guy you can really count on to go out there and pitch a big game. Not just pitch a game, pitch a big game for them. And having that overcomes the loss of Senga a little bit, and really he has been just terrific of late, and let's see if that continues as they go forward. He'll be on the hill tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So watch for Alonso. Critical. Watch for the continued performance of Manaea, and then everybody else chipping in the way they have, as the Mets now have moved to 7 games above 500. They have now displaced the Braves. And the Braves, listen, they got a lot of issues. And they might be the weakest of the 4 teams if you look at San Diego, Arizona, the Mets, and Atlanta. And the Mets now have moved 3 in a loss ahead of the next team behind the Braves. I talked about that. Separating themselves from the Giants, from Pittsburgh, from St. Louis. So that it's only those teams you're looking at where you got to displace one of them. And maybe the teams that they're going to displace is going to be Atlanta after all this. Maybe that is going to be the case. And if it is, it's quite ironic. But, hey, crazier things have happened. And give San Diego credit. They went out to improve their team, and they went out and improved their team a lot. And they have played really terrific baseball since the All-Star break and are moving steadily at the Dodgers, just 2.5 games. 2.5 games behind the Dodgers right now. And that is something worth looking at. Now, the Yankees, the bigger question as they play these teams that they should beat, not only is dropping 2 out of 3 of the Angels, but the question you come away with the last couple of days is, what do the Yankees hate more, the rain or pitching to those kids in the lineup for the Angels? Because those kids beat the heck out of the Yankees. I mean, you look at what Stefanik and Nito and Shanuel, who I like a lot. Oh, boy, he's got a perfect Yankee Stadium swing. Those guys went 15 for 26 and putting up some big numbers on the Yankees in the last 2 games. The Yankees got the first game. They got a 5-0 game in the first game of the doubleheader. All right, they probably thought, hey, you know what? We'll make quick work of the Angels here for a couple of days. They're a dead piece. Late in that game, they get a 2-run homer. All right, so the game ends 5-2. Weaver pitches well. Holmes pitches well. Then the Yankees get ripped. They get bombed the next 2 days as those kids go off and the Yankees lose 2 one-sided games, 8-2 and 9-4 to the Angels. Not good. But the one thing is, when the Yankees lose, the Orioles lose. When the Orioles lose, the Yankees lose. And these two teams just can't get away from each other. They're tied at the hip. They've been tied at the hip for so long, it's kind of crazy. I mean, really, really tied at the hip. And they just can't separate themselves as they go down the stretch here. So we'll see what happens. Maybe it's going to be head-to-head. We'll see. But these Orioles haven't played well in a while. Yankees had a nice little run there, won 7 of 8, but now dropped 2 out of 3 to the Angels, which makes this weekend set a lot more important. And again, there's a couple of things that just continue to bug you. We'll see how they unfold for the Bombers. But no one's panicking about the Yankees right now because they have steadied the ship. They're tied for first place. So you think they can go about their business? Yeah, they're going to make the postseason. We know that. We've never really questioned whether the Yankees are going to make the postseason. The question we've had is, can the Yankees compete? Can they do what everybody wants to see them do in the postseason? And to do that, they got to be better in a lot of spots. Now, Cleveland has finally hit a tough patch. You knew they would. And they have a big 4-game set coming up with a double dip today, a 4-game weekend set with the Twins, who are nipping at their heels right now. Indians have lost 5 straight, so that gets interesting. Dodgers and Padres gets interesting. You have Houston and Seattle, as the Mets go to Seattle and Houston in a flat-footed tie. So these races, some of them interesting. You know, no one talks about Milwaukee, but Milwaukee's been comfortably in front for a long time and have played really consistent baseball all season. Nobody really talks about them. But you know what? They should, because they've been a sound team all year. It's an under the radar team all year. And you got to take that into account. You really do, because they have been better than people have really projected them all year. I took them as an over early in the season. I thought their number was very light, and they've been a good, solid team all the way through. Are they good enough to go all the way? I don't think so. But they're better than anybody thought they would be. And in the American League, it couldn't be more wide open. It's who's going to hit that postseason in the right frame of mind and with their pitching staff in the right place. Is that going to be Houston? Is that going to be the Yankees? Is that going to be the Orioles? We'll see. Now, I don't talk much Olympics. I haven't even I've watched. I was interested in Katie Ledecky winning, and she won that race easy. A lot of people thought she'd lose to the Australian, she didn't. So she won it again. Good for her. She's a nice story. I watched a couple of the track and field things, which I like. But I happened to just click on the basketball yesterday, and I look, and Serbia's beating the heck out of the U.S. And I'm like, wow, the U.S. could get beat here. And then they're down 17 points, and you're saying, whoa, you know, this team's making outside shots. They got Jokic inside. Serbia is going to maybe stun the U.S. here. But you know the U.S. is going to make a run in the fourth quarter. You know that. The question is, can they get it done? And they put 5 guys on the floor in the fourth quarter. And they played him the whole quarter. LeBron, who really plays playmaker here, and actually was, you know, doing a decent job on Jokic some trips down the floor. Embiid, LeBron, Durant, Booker, who has played really well, and Curry. And they come from 17 back to win the game in what was really an exciting fourth quarter. It really was. And Embiid had a flurry in there that was critical. Then they had the big 8 points right in a row where they got the 2 threes, the turnover, and then the LeBron layup. And then Curry took over with his scoring. As you know, he can. He wound up scoring a lot of points. You know he's going to make big shots. And they go on to a win where they were all excited. I mean, listen, think about who was on the floor. How is that team supposed to get beat? They're not. But give Serbia credit. They were banging down threes. They obviously have Jokic, who's a great player. I thought Embiid made some. He is an incredible scorer. LeBron had a triple-double. Curry had like 34, 36, whatever he wound up with. Booker played a terrific defense, too. Booker has really proved himself to be a terrific all-around player in the series, in this event, from what I've watched. Durant's been instant offense off the bench, but they went through the fourth quarter with those guys. LeBron, Embiid, Durant, Booker, and Curry. You'd like to have that team for a while, right? I mean, how's that team supposed to get beat? They're not. And they didn't. And now they get France in the final, which, hey, I know there'll be motivation and, home cooking for the French, but still, let's be honest, U.S. supposed to win easy, or at least win comfortably. Let's see what happens. But that was a heck of a comeback yesterday, and it looked like Serbia was going to get them. And they were very pumped up. It's amazing how much they get into this. If you watch Scottie Scheffler make that incredible comeback, and I didn't watch the golf, so I had to see that secondhand after it had already happened, and I heard about it. Did you hear that Scheffler? I said, I thought Scheffler was out of it. Next thing you know, he makes this incredible run, shoots 62 the last day. Rahm and the front runners fall apart, and Scheffler comes from out of it. Supposedly with 5 holes to play, you could get 6,000 to 1 on Scheffler. And he winds up winning the gold medal. And crying and the whole thing. And it meant a lot to him because of the way he came back. He shot 62 the final day, set the course record. That's a performance. That wound up, if he had won it ho-hum, no one would have batted an eye. He's Scottie Scheffler. But to win it the way he did made it so dramatic that it just added to who he is. And that's what happened yesterday. They got down 17, so it was a big deal the way they came back. No one would bat an eyelash if they won and are in the gold medal game. They're supposed to be in a gold medal game. But to make the big comeback when it looked like maybe they were out of it, that's what was exciting and emotional, very emotional for the players. Even though you're talking about all NBA guys. You're talking about LeBron. You're talking about Durant. You're talking about Curry. You're talking about, Hall of Famers here, all-time greats. You got Booker. You got Embiid. All NBA players. I mean, these guys are great players, all of them. So you're not surprised by their performance. But it was impressive. So the Scheffler thing was exciting. The comeback in the fourth quarter by the basketball team was exciting. I have to admit, even though, like I said, I haven't watched a lot, to be fair, the Olympics opened with this crazy controversy which annoyed countless people about them evidently, and I didn't see the opening ceremony, so I didn't see this supposed, terrible decision to spoof the Catholic religion. Now, they said they didn't do that, but you're taking something that appeared to be the Last Supper and attacking it and spoofing it. It's not going to go well. If you know anything about the Catholic religion, it's not going to sit well, and it didn't around the world. You had sponsors pulling millions of dollar accounts. You had countries that banned the opening ceremony from being showed again in their country. So there was a huge controversy there. I don't know if that's helped the Olympics because controversy always helps TV ratings, but the TV ratings for the Olympics have been very good. Exceptionally good. I don't know if it's Paris. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know if people are bored, whatever it is. The ratings have been good. Just maybe, I don't know, if the controversy hurt it or helped it. I don't know. I did not see the opening ceremonies. I was in Saratoga. I didn't watch it. So, never watched any of it. And I didn't see the controversial thing, but I saw the aftermath. And let me tell you, the aftermath was enormous. So, that's now turned a lot of people off to it. But you've had some interesting developments like Scotty Scheffler and then the basketball team yesterday. So at least there's been a couple of moments for the people who, like me, don't care very much about the Olympics. Really don't. I have to admit, and I don't draw any conclusions from preseason football. If you do, it's really foolish. Now, that doesn't mean you don't see a player sometimes emerge. Remember, Victor Cruz made his career by exploding during the preseason. Put himself on the map. You can put yourself on the map individually. You're not going to make it just like if a team goes 3-1 or 4. They're only playing 3 preseason games now. I got to forget we've gone from 6 to 4 to 3. You're not going to make any real decisions about teams based on whether they win or lose preseason games. Okay, you're not. Because it doesn't make that much difference. It just doesn't. Okay? And some teams are notorious for being teams that just don't win preseason games. Other teams did. As an example, Bill Parcells was a big believer that if you kept score, you win. He won a very high percentage of his preseason games. And there was always a sneaky moment in the preseason where you could bet on them because if they had a bad game, you knew they were going to come back and they were going to beat somebody up the next week because he did not like to lose all his preseason games at all. He won, I think, for his career somewhere in the 70 percentile of his preseason games. That's unusual, though. Some teams just don't care. And some very good teams just don't care. So it's not something you draw any conclusions from. But you can see an individual performance. And the Giants played the Lions last night in the rain. And listen, there are a lot of guys not playing, including quarterbacks and everything else. But you saw a performance last night that I think would open your eyes a little bit. And that was Eric Gray. The Giants didn't come into the season real deep at the running back position. They're going to ask Singletary to pick up the void for Barkley. And obviously, we know how the running back position is treated now. But Eric Gray did some nice things yesterday and showed an explosiveness that you keep an eye on. A 48-yard touchdown run, 2 touchdowns, 4 for 52 rushing the ball, 4 for 46 catching the ball, some explosive plays catching the ball, some explosive plays running the ball. Caught the ball nicely out of the backfield, beat a linebacker on a nice play. Got a good block and took it to the house, 48 yards for a touchdown. So you had a guy who touched the ball 6 times and put up 100 yards of real estate and scored a couple of touchdowns. The second year, if I remember right, 5th round, at the top of my head, I think 5th round pick out of Oklahoma. You know what? Bears a little watching. Looked like he could be useful. Looked like he could be explosive. Looked like he could catch the ball out of the backfield. Hey, like I said, you can emerge in the preseason. You can open people's eyes. And nobody ever did that better than Victor Cruz, who went crazy in a Giant-Jet game and went on to have, some very big years. Locke looked like he got either a stinger or either got a hip pointer or a stinger last night or something on his side. He got hit weird and came out of the game. And then the fans' favorite came in. And it sounds like the Giants are going to keep 3 quarterbacks. Sounds like they're going to keep Locke and DeVito. And it makes sense because, hey, first of all, you know Daniel Jones is injury prone. Secondly, and let's be honest, Locke's going to be number 2. But DeVito at least knows now how to go in there and run the offense. And that's something that at least you don't have to teach somebody cold coming off the street where you got to go out, take your short list, go out and find a quarterback, bring him in, and then, for 2 games you don't let him throw the ball because he doesn't know the offense. At least he knows the offense. And just look at how many quarterbacks played last year. So it makes sense to have guys who know your system, who can at least step in and at least you can run your offense. Remember when DeVito went in, they wouldn't even let him throw the ball. It was like they were playing high school football. It was embarrassing. And then when they opened the offense up, they're like, well, why didn't you let him throw the ball last week? Well, you didn't know the offense. Well, now at least you have a guy who knows the offense. And yes, he's a crowd. The fans like him. We know that. We know his story. We know he tried to, make hay when the sun shined last year as far as, squeezing every dollar out of every opportunity. Hey, good for him. This guy's going to have a backup career. I mean, that's who he is. But there's no reason he can't stick as a backup somewhere. Because he has a little moxie. He's not going to be your number 1 ever. You don't want him to be. But he's got a little, he likes to play and he likes to run around and the fans like him, so you keep him. So I think they will do that. Makes sense. It's just an insurance policy. We didn't see the new toy, the new weapon at wide receiver unfolded yesterday. Okay. You didn't have your starting quarterback in there. It was a rainy day. You're playing against a team that wants to show that they're going to be far more, because the Lions really wanted their point of emphasis this year was to be far more aggressive in their defensive coverage and especially in the secondary, because that's where they were really bad last year. The Lions had a lot of strengths last year. They had a heck of a running game. They were a good passing team. They got a good play out of their quarterback. They had a great offensive line, at worst the number 2 offensive line, maybe the best offensive line in the league. They had a good team, but they were not good against the pass. And their coverage stunk. And that's their point of emphasis, so they tried to come into the game yesterday, and show that they were going to be far more aggressive and allow their D-backs to play far more aggressively. So that didn't happen yet. We'll have to wait for that. You know it's coming, and you know he's going to be there. You know what they think of him. You know what his use is going to be. You know all that. So the fact that it didn't happen in week 1 doesn't mean anything. It's there. It's going to happen. He's going to be the breakout player. The Giants are better in some positions this year. Neighbors going to make them better, a lot better, and a lot more explosive. Burns is going to make them better, a lot better. He's that kind of player. So we'll see. But again, don't draw any conclusions from them beating the Lions or anything like that. That's not what you do. But you can like what you saw from Gray yesterday. That was a distinct positive. That's the one note you really take from that game that bears watching, because that's a position where somebody can jump up and really make an impact and create a job for themselves that they can carry into the new season. That can happen without any question. And there's probably no position on the team where that's more true than at running back, because they really went into the season light at the position. Not that Singletary is not a solid, I'd call him a workman-like back. But all you need at the running back position to be good in the NFL is workman-type backs who can do their job. To have guys who can run the ball, to have the guy who can run the ball in short yardage, to have the guy who's good at blitz pickup, which is imperative, and who can come out of the backfield and catch the ball. You don't have to have that in one person. You don't have to have that in two people. You can have that in three people. But you have to have it. It has to be there. You have to have guys who can do all those things. Without any question. You know, I watched the Yankees, of course, you know, a couple of rainy days here. I watched the Yankees play the Angels these games. And we know the Angels have been a sorry franchise. They have some really good young players. And it's clear they have some arms. They have some players that I really liked. It's time for them, when he's healthy, to let Trout go somewhere where he can, whether it's Philly, whether it's somewhere else, let Trout go for a bunch of prospects or a reasonable package of prospects at this point, and let him go get somewhere where he can win some games and maybe play in the postseason before he's done with this. I don't know if Trout's ever going to come back and be the Mike Trout we knew. He's done for this year now. What's happened to him has been very tough. But I think that's the best thing for him and the franchise now. It's not going to happen for him there. They're still a ways away, even though you finally like some of the kids they have. They had some kids in that lineup yesterday that I was impressed by. You know, Hoppy didn't hit a lot here, and he had a million fans in the stands, but you know what? He's a good-looking player. And Shanuel and Nito and Stefan, they got some young players. I mean, Rendon's been a bust. We understand that. Even though he's in there trying now, he's still been a colossal bust for them. After being a guy they could not get out in the postseason, and he cashed in on it royally, but, that stuff happens. But it's time for them to turn the corner. It really is. And continue on their path to building and let Trout go somewhere and maybe find some postseason glory in the next couple of years. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.